Hello, crafters and artisans, and welcome back to Psychedelic Squid Fiber Arts. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to refinish your wheel. If your wheel doesn't have an existing finish on it, you can skip ahead to the staining. However, if you have an existing finish, you're going to need to strip it and sand it before staining. The supplies you'll need are gloves for the acetone and for the stain, acetone or other paint stripper, new stain, rags or paper towels, paintbrush or foam brush, paint key, rubber mallet, sandpaper, ideally 180 to 220 grit. You might also want a wire brush. To start, you'll want to disassemble your spinning wheel to as small parts as possible. If you're having difficulty, it might be because some joints were glued together. If that's the case, I did make a video on how to take apart a wheel that's been glued together. Once you've done that, we can go ahead and start removing the finish using acetone. There are other paint strippers, but acetone was working really well on this wheel already, so I just continued to use it. Remember to do this in a well-ventilated area, as acetone vapors can be harmful. Using soaked paper towels, I wiped off the existing finish. I have to say, for stubborn parts, I did let the acetone sit for a few seconds before wiping it off. Basically, you're going to have to do this for every part of the wheel. Where there are difficult crevices or nooks, I recommend using a wire brush to help clean away the existing finish. Remember that any rags soaked in acetone should be left open to dry. If you crumble them up into little wads, it can catch fire. Here's an example of what I mean. See how all of them are relatively open and not compacted into the bucket? Once you're done stripping the wood, you should fix any blemishes or damage. Then, you'll probably need to sand the whole thing lightly with 180 to 220 grit sandpaper. I use 220, and I say probably need to sand it because it does depend on the type of paint stripper you used and the condition of your wood. Next, to start staining, you'll want to either use an oil-based stain or a water-based stain without a finish to it. The reason for this is because traditionally, spinning wheels are left open so they can breathe, and some sealers yellow or degrade over time, while open wheels can be maintained with oils and waxes. Remember to stir your finish before use. I'm using Barn Red in this video as part of an experimental technique. Be sure to read and follow the instructions on your specific stain, paying special attention to the staining and drying times. My quick stain said to allow it to sit 2 to 3 minutes before wiping the excess off, and leave it on longer for a more intense color. More importantly than getting an intense color, you need to make sure to wipe off all the excess before it dries, otherwise it'll look uneven and splotchy. You can always do multiple applications of stain to intensify the color. I did 2 applications for this wheel. When staining the wheel, I would recommend staying away from the wood threads as the fit can easily be thrown off. I only applied the stain to 2 to 3 pieces of wood at a time, so I can stay ahead of the drying time. Once I wipe off the excess, I set my pieces off to the side to allow them to finish drying. Just like with the acetone, remember to let your rags or paper towels dry open and not compacted, otherwise they also might catch fire. I waited 24 hours in between coats, although the directions only say 2 hours are needed because I feel like the longer drying time of the first coat leads to better application of the second coat. After staining, I apply a Howard's feed and wax and let the pieces sit overnight before wiping off the excess. Here's a couple of close-ups of that gorgeous color. And here's the finished wheel. Please leave any questions in the comments section below, and thank you all so much for exploring the depths of your creativity with me, and I'll see you next time.